All right, well, welcome back after lunch to this afternoon session. We're in the one of the 3 tracks in parallel this afternoon. This track is the HUBzero Applications and Experiences track. It's really things all about you, the rest of you in the community, and the various ways that you're using HUBzero and things that you're developing and what's happening. So I'm very happy to introduce our first speaker, Jeanette Sperhac. Jeanette's here from SUNY Buffalo and telling us about the virtual infrastructure for data intensive analysis. That's the VIDIA site that I mentioned this morning. She's going to give us an update on that. So welcome, Jeanette.
So hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks to HUBzero for having me back. I'm starting to feel like an absolute regular. It's a lovely feeling. So I'm here to talk, as Mike mentioned, I'm here from University of Buffalo, Center for Computational Research, where we host a hub called, the long name is Virtual Infrastructure for Data Intensive Analysis. We call it VIDIA because we're fond of it. And here's what we're going to talk about today. I did talk about this hub last year, same time, same place. I'm going to give you the quick overview of that collaboration behind it and the instance that we're running. And then we're going to go into some new material and some new lands, talk about the digital humanities work that we're starting to get up and running there, accomplishments over the last 3 semesters teaching on this hub, lessons learned and some challenges and plans. So what about this collaboration? Well, what happens when you get an academic supercomputing facility together with a 4-year liberal arts college? Here's the story. I'm here at CCR in Buffalo, New York, over here in the big building, and we're pretty conversant with large compute. We have a lot of academic and industrial users, people running big codes, engineers, genomics folks, protein crystallization puzzles, all kinds of interesting stuff going on there. So we're pretty comfortable in that space. Now we found ourselves entering a collaboration with SUNY Oneonta. So we're all part of the same State University of New York system. These guys were kind of challenged. They didn't have the kind of compute resources that they wished to have, and they have 6,000 students there. They wanted to teach them some new things. So this is how this got started. The social sciences faculty at Oneonta wanted to get a little bit up on their game. They wanted to be able to do research and also teaching that would utilize social media and do some heavy data analytics, text analytics on that social media data. So for instance, looking into Twitter feeds and searches from Twitter feeds and that kind of thing. Really digging in with some modern computational tools. They wanted to teach their students about this work so that they'd be able to go out and be modern social scientists with proper new methods. They also wanted to be able to bolster their own research and publishing. So, and also to make use of some HPC resources. Now, there at Oneonta, they didn't have these resources, so we got together. Using the HUBzero platform, we put up the VIDIA instance at CCR. We put up some workflow tools to enable data analysis by Oneonta's students and faculty. And we also were able to purchase some large data sets that would be of interest to the social sciences. So we deployed this hub in October 2013. For the last 3 semesters, the Oneonta faculty and now some other folks as well have been teaching on it with a certain amount of success, and we'll tell you a little bit about that as the talk goes on. So here's our instance itself, a little screenshot for you. Here's the candy store slide. Our web server is a pretty powerful beast. We've got notably 36 terabytes of usable disk space and 128 gig of memory on this machine. Now, the thing I want to point out here is that Oneonta, before they entered into this collaboration with us, on their entire campus, for their 7,000 students, faculty, and staff, they had 7 terabytes in total of disk space. So they've really gained something in this collaboration. This is the sort of thing that research centers like UB ought to be doing, is reaching out to smaller groups in the consortium in the university system and finding ways to get everybody some compute, right? So that's the idea here. We're also presently spinning up an additional execution host that we're going to use for some heavier sessions, some big R sessions. So you can read the rest of that slide at your leisure. A little bit about our HUBzero instance. We're running open source 1.3.1, and right there in our own machine room, we've got workspace access restricted, and I've got a container template that's running on a separate disk from root, so also user home directories are there and tool sessions. And like I said, we're spinning up that extra execution host. So tools. Tools are the big deal on this hub. The social scientists that we're helping out wanted some particular features. They wanted to offer graphical user interfaces to their students that would be easy to use. We're not talking about native programmers here. We're not talking about people who are happy talking about the benefits of different compilers. They really needed to be helped along a little bit. But they wanted something that would be powerful enough to be able to do the text analytics they needed on the large data sets. Now, for my part, I wanted to deploy tools that were open source and extensible. I wanted there to be large user communities, wanted to be able to pop the hood if I wanted to and extend things with modules, maybe tinker a little bit. So we did a little looking around. I settled on a couple of tools. RapidMiner and Orange are nice sort of workflow tools. The user can take a number of different operators, wire them together, and do things like machine learning, do some text processing and text analytics work, pipe in some inputs, pipe out some outputs, do a certain amount of visualization, maybe yank it out to a CSV for further analysis or for display or publication. So those have worked out quite well for us. RapidMiner is written in Java, Orange is in Python. And RapidMiner is quite well documented, so the faculty have liked that a lot. RStudio is a perennially favorite front end for R that we all love, for the R language. Python and Perl IDEs we put up for an introductory biostatistics class, and GNU PSPP is sort of GNU's answer to SPSS, which social scientists love to use. All right, so let's move on to a little bit about what we've been doing lately. We have some new collaborators. These gentlemen over at SUNY Geneseo have some really interesting ideas that they're unrolling in the digital humanities. So you might ask, what are the digital humanities? Well, I like this definition, using newish tools to better understand old texts. So these folks are taking typical humanities texts and using things like machine learning on them, using computational methods and coming up with metrics and measures and statistics to describe what's in there. This bolsters arguments that humanities people would typically make about these texts, and in some cases it allows them to detect and uncover some new and interesting features they weren't aware of. So when we say new tools, well, those folks in computer science won't be surprised that statistics and machine learning are important features here. Some natural language processing, data visualization, these kinds of things. These are our bread and butter, but this is a little more new to the humanities. And it's exciting to see people using these things on large bodies of text. So in particular, some of the Geneseo people have been using, and we're going to talk about just now, the use of this QDAP R package for discourse analysis. Now, discourse analysis is what happens when you've got a transcript of some kind, maybe a play or a transcript of a TV show or doctor-patient interaction, something like that, maybe a presidential debate. You have something unfolding both in time and you have a number of different speakers. So who speaks when? How formal is the language of each speaker? How negative or positive is their sentiment? Complexity of their language, and what word frequency among different speakers. These are the questions you can ask. Now I'm going to take you on a whirlwind trip through these slides just to give you a sense of some of the questions that people can ask. If you look at Romeo and Juliet, you can take a look on the y-axis we've got the speaker, and on the x-axis we've got the duration of the play in words. You can see the colored lines are indicating who's speaking at what time. So you can see major characters such as Romeo and Juliet have rather a lot of colored lines. There's Romeo there. There are a couple of things you can notice from this. A gentleman named Mercutio comes to his demise in the middle of the play, It's a rather fraught moment, and it's the time that Romeo, if you recall from literature class, has to go off into exile. This happens right in the middle of the play, which sounds to me like some craft on the part of Shakespeare, accelerating the action just in the center of the play. Here's a little something about language formality. This is another measure that linguists have come up with. You look at different parts of speech and determine how casual or formal the speech is. This is varying across the characters. Again, on the y-axis you've got characters, and on the x-axis over here in the gray, 0 to 100 should be the scale. You can see the way that the range of language formalities that occur in this play. Polarity is another question you can ask about, and again, there's a metric to measure this. We're talking about how negative or positive are the statements issued by these different characters. And in this case, negative statements in purple and positive statements in red. We're not going to go through this in detail, but the main characters seem to be lying really pretty well in the center with small standard deviations on either side. I thought that was sort of interesting. Readability is something about complexity of language. Again, another metric we can compute easily with the QDAP package. And word frequency. Here we have Romeo and Juliet and the number of times they utter certain words inside the play. Now, this is an interesting suite of metrics, and this is just a sampling of things you could do with something like QDAP for discourse analysis. As I mentioned, we have, there are anthropologists at Geneseo who are working on doctor-patient dialogues and trying to figure out what is said and what is understood and what the sentiment is. We have other people who are working on analysis of news shows dialogues and trying to look at who's considered an aggressor and who a victim in the Arab-Israeli conflict, who's using the word terrorist, this kind of thing. So these are some important analyses that people are actually using computational methods on. And we're in a unique position to offer the tools and the compute to be able to make this possible for people to teach their undergraduates, for people to release their own research, even at small institutions where they don't typically have the expertise or the infrastructure to do this. So what have we got done over the last few semesters? We've added campuses, we've taught courses, or at least we've supported them, deployed new tools and added users. Let's talk about all this. Well, here's where I'm from these days. And Buffalo's here. We've got Geneseo coming in, hopefully teaching starting January. We have Brockport, where we had a couple of courses taught. And this is our flagship, Oneonta, with lots and lots of social science going on. We've supported courses all over the map in the social sciences and humanities. Political science and sociology are really strongholds here. We've got a number of different courses coming in. This is just a sampling. We've taught 15. We've supported 15 classes. It's nice to see that social research methods, again, computation is being considered a social research method. They're not just going to administer surveys and count things up. They can really cut to the chase by applying metrics to things and by looking at interesting new questions like what are people saying on social media. Animals in society and environmental sociology have made heavy use of Twitter feeds on subjects of their interest, and rural sociology has done a lot with census data and SPSS, or PSPP as the case may be. Here's a sampling of students supported on VIDIA, not a sampling, but the whole deal. This is enrollment by department of the course was offered in and semester. And as I mentioned, we've deployed some new tools, PSPP and some IPython for the bioinformatics set. So here you can see the tools growing in by semester. PSPP is seeing a larger share of the usage, and these are RStudio sessions slowly growing in. We also see a lot of use of RapidMiner, which is one of those workflow tools I mentioned earlier that we get those social scientists started on. So we're really we're happy to say that this is seeing a lot of use and is very positive. We've got 300 active and registered users now as of spring 2015, and we're supporting research from things like the Supreme Court and public opinion to animal rights controversies. A lot of different things going on. What we love is the tools. That's really what we're here for. And Oneonta loves that they can have their tools and data sets in one place. they don't have to worry about supporting anything more than a browser. And now that we're all HTML5 and JavaScript enabled for tool sessions, I'm very happy. I'll tell you that right now. What we need in order to make such a thing as this collaboration succeed, campus champions are essential. They have to be there. They're in contact with their own faculty. They can let me know what the concerns of the faculty are, what their needs are. The campus champion can handle or escalate help requests. They can either take care of it right there or say, Jeanette, I got a problem. So this is really, really helpful to smooth things out. They also can provide on-site tool demos, go into the classroom and show the social science students, that it's not necessary to be afraid of configuration files. And I'm happy to say we're succeeding. The students are finding they're responding well to this. The first semester we had things going, we had a couple of hiccups with container sessions and memory usage and a few odds and ends. We were all getting used to things, so we didn't have such good approval ratings, you could say. But by springtime, we really were having, this is the same class that's offered regularly. It's a methods class in social science. And this was received very well. So we're breaking in our faculty. These are social sciences faculty. They're not native to computational methods, but we're finding that they're responding well, and so are their students. Challenges and plans. Well, one thing we've done, and I cut this slide because it's too much. We've been traveling all over New York, giving presentations saying, come join us, adopt this. We have a wonderful platform. We'd love to have you use our tools. And it's hard to set a hook on a new campus. It looks like a lot of work to people. They're worried about developing problem sets, learning how to use the tools themselves, that sort of thing. How am I going to use this? How do I imagine making this happen? With Geneseo, they see the benefit of the big R environment that I have to manage and they don't. With Oneonta, they've been really, really pleased to be there for it. Once they're there, they take access for granted. They don't necessarily want to call me up and say, Jeanette, I got 20 students at 10 in the morning every day this week. So I have to do better at finding out who needs what when. Course material development is also an issue, and I'd love to get additional students and campuses involved, say for maybe some data science folks that can help develop materials for the social scientists. On the software side, we have had some trouble with hackers, as we all have, right? And with configuration retention after system updates, a couple of issues with usage data collection. These are the kind of hiccups that happen, and things are improving. So going forward, we're looking into supergroups, support for bigger jobs, tinkering with those OpenVZ containers and their settings, execution hosts that are special purpose, spam patrols, and a course resource reservation system. We have a lot of things we'd like to do. We'll see what we can get away with. But I'd like to thank all the folks who teach on this thing and back me up, and especially those new collaborators in Geneseo doing cool things with QDAP, and the gang at Oneonta who is working hard to teach good computational things to social scientists. Thank you all so much for your attention, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jeanette?
You had increased a big increase in the quantity of the SPSS package, and then there was a decrease in the R usage over time. Is that due to just kind of courses or anything else?
There's a degree to which we've had a change in the kind of courses. One of the things that happened is our political science adopter was on sabbatical last term. So normally he teaches a course where his students are doing work in our studio. So I would, I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. It was RapidMiner that had decreased. And the reason I believe for the decrease in RapidMiner is there are some political sciences courses that were not taught that term. Additionally, some of the social sciences folks were starting to experiment with using PSPP rather than the SPSS version they have licensed on their own campus. They said, oh, we'll use it on VIDIA. So PSPP is coming in, and RapidMiner has seen a blip. I expect that I'll see more RapidMiner sessions going forward because he'll be back from sabbatical and teaching again. I was going to mention that. Thanks. Well, thanks so much for your attention, everyone.
maybe one question also on the analysis tools. In fact, we see you are using a lot of different tools like R or other kind of tools. Did you have any clues, any information about the fact to have the possibility to go to reproducibility or exchange between people of this kind of analysis tools? For example, if you use R, it's quite difficult to reanalyze your data with exactly the same script and the same package. Did you have any?
Do we have any problems with reanalysis?
Did you have any solution to propose reproducibility of analysis processes and shareability and
reprocessing? One of the things I glossed over that we spoke about actually last year at this time, with the social sciences, they really are trying to emphasize reproducibility, as you mentioned. And I think the problem there is not so much in the method, but in the case of searching for Twitter feeds, they really want to have the real data set, right? You can purchase data sets from Twitter, and our initial grant we used for 1 for hardware and 2 for data sets. So we actually purchased data sets, we've housed those on the server, and they have been after reanalyzing those data and looking back into those data. So they're a complete set of Twitter data, not a sampling like you can get for free, but it's a purchased complete package. As for reproducibility itself, I'm not a social scientist at all, and I've helped these guys develop some course materials, but it's pretty much on them to ensure that. If you wanted to find out what they're doing, I'd be happy to put you in touch with them, but I can't vouch for their methods, if that makes sense. Okay? Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.